And we're live. We're back.
The broadcast is live.
We are going. We're doing it. Second part of the Alchemist today, part 2. We are going to be talking about the summary and going through a little bit of everything here. But I want to start off and say the book was actually, I missed this last time we talked about it. The book was published originally in 1988 by Paulo Coelho. I don't think Coelho.
That's how everybody says it. I don't know how. Paulo Coelho.
Coelho. I looked up the pronunciation. I think I'm right. So, yeah.
You're probably right.
It was originally published in 1988, and it completely flopped. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. So he wrote it in 2 weeks.
Interesting.
Said it was all already in his head, the whole story. Which blew my mind because if he wrote that in 2 weeks, I mean, as hard of a...
It reminds me of J.K. Rowling kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
She had the same kind of a weird...
And it was translated into English in 1993. So that's when it kind of went crazy.
It did better when we actually read it in America.
Actually, let's see. So Bill Clinton was photographed leaving the White House with a copy in his hand. I think that's when it really came out. And then Madonna raved about it in a book to Vanity Fair, and they say Rush Limbaugh and Will Smith.
I remember Will Smith.
Yeah. So I'm sure that helped.
It's a good marketing scheme.
Yeah.
Have the president carry it around.
Yeah. So you got your live chat up now. Can you get in there?
It's not giving me live chat. I guess when you're the guest, it doesn't give you. Not in StreamYard.
Well, it should have you got to make sure on the right comments tab on the right there, bud.
Well, I am. I've heard that before. I have to just go in on the regular stream and do it.
Pretty sure I had that when we did them before when you were doing the cast.
I think they changed it.
Oh, I figured.
I'm not sure.
I just figured you didn't know what you're doing.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, all right. You ready to jump into the summary?
Say it again.
So you ready to jump into the summary?
Sure.
So summarizing, he basically gets a job working for the merchant, starts making a lot of changes to the guys. Things are populating. It threw me off. I wasn't ready for that. So he jumps in and starts working for the merchant, the crystal merchant, making changes in his store and improving that guy. And they go through all kinds of different interactions where they're talking about life, and he's learning from that guy. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
He fights the change every time because whatever it's been working. It's almost like he's sabotaging his dream by not trying anything new.
Pretty sure he's doing that. You mean the merchant or the boy?
The merchant.
Yeah. So then what happens after that? He joins the caravan. Or did I go too fast?
I think. Well, I mean, I thought it was really cool how he, he learned so much from the merchant. He learned how to speak Arabic. He's like, I couldn't have learned that from my sheep.
Right.
And he also is like, he learned something about business and or something else that he's like, he couldn't have learned. Anyway, omens. He was talking about omens. He was seeing omens and he was using it to give those reasonings to change the store to the merchant. So I thought that was kind of cool. It was like showing like the step before, which helps him during the caravan.
Mm-hmm.
To the oasis.
Right. Yeah, he made a lot of different changes too. He talked about started selling drinks to everybody because he was talking about how they were like kind of pulled back up a hill away from like where a lot of the foot traffic was. So he was like constantly thinking outside the box and coming up with new ideas that the merchant had never even had. So that was definitely cool.
Yep. Because I'm a business owner and sometimes you get where you're it works. No one there to tell you there's something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have someone to whisper in your ear, hey, this might work a little better.
I like it. So after that, he goes to the warehouse where he meets up with the Englishman and the caravan.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting. The caravan was like hundreds of people. It wasn't just like, I think I missed that when I was listening to the audiobook previously. I thought it was a much smaller group, but it was actually like a massive group of people.
Yep.
A bunch of animals and different people.
I thought this last time I was kind of going over it again, I was thinking about how it was kind of like democracy is supposed to be. It was like, I know this last time I was kind of,
my bad.
Whatever religion, I don't care. Pray to your religion, please do, and I'll pray to mine and I'll get you through this. Mm-hmm. There's just a few rules and just stick to it. And so I thought it was kind of cool, like vagabonds coming together and creating like a little government real quick just to keep each other alive for a month or whatever it is.
Right. That was interesting. They all did, because they talked a lot about the different prayers. The boy was talking about the different priests that would get up and holler out the arm or the call to prayer and all that kind of stuff. And then they were talking, different people were praying to Jesus when they were getting ready to go, and many different religions coming together. So after that, was there anything you wanted to add about the in the summary about I mean, there's a lot of details, a lot of cool, definitely a lot of cool statements they made.
I thought it was kind of neat when they were talking. He's talking to the Englishman, because we got to hear a different point of view. Mm-hmm. Words like alchemy and all these different things that he had never heard of. The Philosopher's Stone was really neat to hear that. The masterwork of these alchemists is to the elixir of life and the Philosopher's Stone, which I thought was kind of neat. It's a kind of an ancient tale that I've heard other ways, but I'd never heard it the way they explained it. So that was kind of cool.
I like it.
A sliver of the Philosopher's Stone would turn any metal into gold, so you could make money anytime you needed to. Just take a sliver off.
Stone. I don't even remember that. Is that
Philosopher's Stone? Yeah. It's what the alchemist is masterwork is supposed to be, and the elixir of life. They can cure anything.
I was going to ask you that. I wrote that down, the elixir of life, because I got to that point, and I don't remember them actually explaining it. That's what is the elixir of life?
They basically said it can cure anything. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe the reader should look in a little bit more. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I think there was some other to it, but. But yeah, I just thought it was neat to see. He was like seeing different cultures, and that's what it was showing. Like the caravan leader was kind of the not the leader, but the
camel driver.
Mm-hmm. Good call. Is kind of like a hunter gatherer, and he's just like, today's as good a day to die as any other. He sounded like the Native Americans, and it was weird because it was almost like the boy was trying to get him scared, and he's just like, you're not going to scare me with nothing. It was just funny. It was interesting.
He had a pretty cool backstory too, because he was kind of a wealthy, successful person, and like his whole life got uprooted, and he lost everything. So yep. He kind of assumed that none of that would ever happen to him. And then he ended up just being a camel driver, not just, but choosing to be a camel driver.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Pretty much a camel driver. So
this one time. It's a good story. I mean, it's kind of hard to follow, like you've noticed, and I think that's why reading it's a little easier, because you can go back, but watching the video, you're going back 10 seconds, back 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder. It's easier to go back of your eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this one's definitely better to read.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's when I watch it on YouTube or listen to the audiobook, if I miss something and I try to go back, and then I'll get confused about how far back I went, and I'm like, I end up listening to like 2 minutes of it over again. And so I wanted to actually, I want to circle back to that. Do you want to do some your questions now, or do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, found it kind of fascinating. When the boy started at the merchant shop, the merchant owner offered him enough money to send him home, like right when he got there. And I actually wrote down this question, and I kind of answered my own question at the end because it actually does say, but I just thought it was a super interesting topic. The boy had the opportunity, he lost all of his money. He lost all of his flock. I mean, he was basically starting over at square one. He goes in the merchant shop, and the guy offers to feed him, but the boy needed enough money to go to like Egypt, and the merchant owner actually offered him. He said, "I'll give you enough money to get you home." And he said, "I'll stay and work for you." And I was going to ask why, like, why would he do that? But then because the last sentence of that whole section before he leaves, it basically says, he couldn't go back home empty-handed. Like he was pride and greed, or maybe more pride than greed. And I wanted your opinion, what you thought of that.
I thought you were coming from the merchant, because the merchant says he gives him the money because that's what his religion tells him to do.
No, he gave him lunch because it's what his religion told him to do. He fed him. He didn't give him the money. He offered him the money, and the boy didn't take it. Was my thought on what happened. So the boy said, he said, "I'll give you enough money to go home, and I will feed you because that's what my religion tells me to do." And then he said, and then the boy said, "No, I'll stay."
I was thinking that the boy was thinking that he didn't have money for the flock. So if he went home, he wouldn't have a flock. So wouldn't he be home? So if I remember right, he had to make more money before he went home.
That's true. But the owner, in the beginning, the owner said, "I will give you enough money to get you home." I reread it like 5 times. Like
I know. I'm just saying, but he didn't have the money for the flock.
He didn't need it though, because the merchant owner was just going to pay for his way to go home. He was just going to give him the cash.
Right, but I'm saying that's why you're asking me why the boy didn't go, and I think it's because he didn't have money for the flock, so he could go home, but for what? So he decided to make some money.
Yeah,
that's just my guess. I don't know. I don't remember it real well.
I interpreted it had more to do with just like pride, like he didn't want to go, because he could have went back home empty-handed with nothing and started over, or because he could have got a job when he got home.
I'm sure it's part of it.
Yeah, but I just thought
go home, see the merchant's daughter with some successful businessman or something.
Perfect example of how we tell ourselves stories and get wrapped up in these things that kind of don't matter, and we'll like change our whole life over it. So like my whole thought was the boy gave up a year of his life working in the merchant shop to earn enough money to buy another flock so that he could go back. Then he ends up not even buying the flock. So
because he learned so many great things that he evolved past needing that flock or wanting it at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like, if you learned Arabic, you'd be like, what's the point? You're bilingual. That's so useful in so many ways. To be like using that on sheep wouldn't be very smart.
Yeah. I wish I could speak Arabic, or actually just wish I could read Arabic.
I just want to get good at English.
Yeah, I probably need to learn how to speak better in English before I would learn Arabic. It'd be like, what is wrong with him? He keeps saying everything over and over again.
I have a friend that's learning it, and there's all kinds of different dialects. There's like so many.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. There's so many versions, and there's so many like slangs and like, what do you call it?
I would just say dialects. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Don't they say that the English language is the hardest one though? Or am I wrong?
Because it doesn't make sense.
It's so dumb.
So many words sound the same, or they spelled the same. So like, what do you do? Like, but it's spelled the same, but it's not spelled. It doesn't sound the same.
Yeah,
but it's spelled the same. Yeah,
could use it in a sentence. I don't know what you mean.
See.
All right, you want to ask one of your questions, or you need to do my other one? Other ones.
I was going to ask.
I don't know.
I plead the fifth. Is there any time in your life that you felt like there was an omen that led to something bad or good, that maybe was like a warning sign or something that ended up happening in your future, in your own life, that you can share?
That's kind of what I'm rattling through.
Because I had like 3 myself. I was like, nope.
An omen that happened in my life that, say that, like, just summarize that question in like fewer words. An omen that.
Something that you saw that you were like a red flag that you should have. And if you would have taken that, if you would have listened to that red flag, you would have jumped out because it was an omen. It was a sign. Or a good sign that led to something great because you kept following that omen. Because it can mean many different things to different people.
So I can think of a couple different things, but for one for me, big one is probably the wreck I was involved in when I was riding in the front, truck driver riding in the front, and got in a pretty horrific accident. And I don't know. I think looking back, I kind of wish I would have made that. Or it was a great awakening for me, for one thing. I don't know if it didn't really change my job status right away, but it was a wake up call, and it wasn't a wake up call for like career wise. It was a wake up call for like my overall life, and it made me rethink things going forward, and it made me realize when people talk to you like you talk to your dad. I talked to my dad, and he would say things like, life's too short to be unhappy and life's too long to be unhappy. He would make kind of comments like that. And you're kind of just like, yeah, whatever, and when you're in an event like I was in, it's that crazy and you potentially almost die. I mean, I actually wasn't injured, but it would have been 2 inches to the left or right. And it could have been a whole different outcome. But
you're almost hanging over a cliff, were you?
We got hung up on a guardrail wiring, and we were kind of hanging. We weren't really hanging over, but it stopped us when we were 3 or 4 feet over into almost a ravine deal. So I don't want to do a whole lot of details on it just for legal reasons, but it was pretty scary. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest awakenings I've ever had. And I think I talked to you about it some back and forth, but I don't know, I didn't talk to a whole lot of people about it. So I kind of couldn't at the time, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those bad things that happens that actually makes you rethink everything, and it ends up being a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Story time.
Story time. It's funny you asked me that because I've got one like that for you too.
Oh, crap.
Oh, yeah.
Am I going to get tested on this? Is Miss
Mine,
Ball here?
Mine's way easier than yours, though.
Anthony, you could do better than that. I'll give you a B-.
Yeah, wasn't that the most depressing thing to hear? Yeah, I really thought you could do better.
I know you're smarter than that. Did you just not try, or?
Yeah. There it is. So I wrote down, it's when the boy was talking to the merchant, and the merchant was talking about how he had always wanted to travel to Mecca. And he says, I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living. And I thought that was pretty fascinating because I wondered how often, we all do that now. Like we self-sabotage, or we allow ourselves not to succeed in something, or we don't try something because we're afraid that. I guess I'm wondering, like, what are you afraid of? Especially if it succeeds. Why would he not do it, just in being afraid that his dream would be what he actually wanted? Because he was pretty miserable. He worked in the shop for I don't remember how many years, but you know, he had just got comfortable with it. He didn't want to change his business. He didn't want to do anything new. He was just comfortable in being kind of half miserable and mediocrely successful. So why was he afraid of, your opinion, why was he afraid of success right there, or his dream becoming realized?
I guess I could say it in this. I guess compared to like me playing guitar, you doing comedy, it's almost like it's better to believe that I'll come up with a good song, a cool lick, some good lyrics that people are like, man, I kind of like that, you know. And you know, you kind of have that dream, but if you don't ever try it, that dream's still real in your head in a way, and it didn't fail. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it's almost like you don't want to take that step because then all the criticism comes in of yourself and from other people, and you may not be as funny or as good at the guitar as you thought you were. And it's your passion, so you don't want to poop on your own passion sometimes. And I get that. It's hard to put yourself out there because I mean, I've had people do that. They're like, yeah, Wanted Dead or Alive. He adds the Cessna 7 on that one on the A. So you didn't even really do it right. Cool. I think most people understood what it was though. So, you know, he played a 12 string too, you know, like people just come at you just for the heck of it, you know, and people, your own family criticize you without even, they're not even really meaning to do it. They just say it because it's like a difference. They see a difference. They see a pattern. But yeah, I think that has something to do with it. I don't know. Makes you wonder too. But sometimes two people use that leverage to stay alive because he didn't have a significant other. You know, he didn't have a dog or a best friend. He had his dream of Mecca. It was his best friend. So in a weird way, it was almost like if he went there and it was a disappointment, he'd lose the only like friend he had in a weird way. Wow. Just unraveled that weirdly.
So you actually just made me see a different side of it because I kind of looked at it wrong, because the exact word says, I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I will have no reason to go on living. And I looked at that as my dream came true or was successful, but it says realized. It doesn't say that it went well. It may have went horrifically bad, which like I said, when I read that, I thought that it was like a good thing and it worked out. It's a good point. It may have been a complete disaster. So, which is what it's, so again, we're scared of failing and rejection, right?
Shaming ourselves in the meantime for things that no one even notices except ourselves.
Yeah. Like you say, if you realize how much people are actually listening to you or thinking about you, they're probably not.
Hey,
Richard's here. What's up, buddy? Or maybe if the merchant went to Mecca and loved it, then where should he go and what should he do afterwards?
Right. You hit nirvana. What do you do after you hit nirvana, right?
Plateaus and it's okay, but then what else is there? It's like the whole thing of having or losing something to look forward to. It's like you're going to an event, you finally get there and go. It's good, it's fun. After that, then what?
It's a good point.
Like the feeling you get when Christmas is over. You know, that's why there's so many suicides in February.
That's why I have Christmas every month, every 25th. Makes bills easier.
Yeah. Do you just buy the gifts for yourself, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love Amazon.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I like it.
I think that was good. I think we've pretty much got to. Did you have another question?
I only had those two main ones I wanted to ask about the story, but I do have one more kind of question / comment about the book, and for you, unless you have another one. Do you have another one?
Actually, I don't.
So I told you I started reading the book again because the freaking YouTube was just hard for me to follow, and I originally started reading I started reading this originally, and I read the first chapter, and while I was listening to it, and I started reading it again today, and then I remembered. Can you see that?
Highlights.
This is actually your book. I
I was
forgot.
highlighting it.
I forgot this is actually your book.
Oh yeah.
Because I had gotten it for Hayden too, but I literally was just cruising along in this book, like thinking it was mine, and then I started getting to like your highlights and notes, and I kind of was like, that's pretty cool. I actually have the answers to the tests. So, but what I wanted,
that was one of those books. I was like, you got to read it. It's a good one.
well, and it is funny because some of the stuff I was reading today, I was reading ahead and looking at your highlight stuff, and it was making me. It's interesting, just some of the concepts. There's a lot of stuff we've actually talked about before,
Right.
but I wanted to ask you, and it's a rhetorical question because I already know the answer to it, but I wanted to ask you to talk about, if you wanted to, what got you interested in reading. I thought it was such a cool story, and it made me, because this was your book, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to say that because I thought it'd be, but you can also answer it however you want. If you want to dodge that and just.
How I got interested in reading?
Yeah, just like that story. I thought the whole story is pretty cool. So I guess if anybody's watching this and they realize it's not that cool, they'll know you dodged it. So
I don't know. I started reading with it was an Egyptian pyramid book. Huh? No. What story do you want me? What are you talking about?
The Amish story.
Huh?
The Amish story.
Oh. My bad.
Pretty fascinating to me. I thought it'd be cool to kind of have it documented and just have you just go through it for a second.
You're right. When I was I was 6 years old and I was going to kindergarten. My mom and dad worked in a town about 20 miles away. So across the street from where I went to school was some Mennonites. They weren't Amish. They were Mennonites. And so it was easy. It was a school bus. We went about 100 yards and let off. And there was like 2 or 3 of us. One of them ended up graduating high school with. And the first day I got there, I walked in and it's this 6 foot tall Mennonite woman, and she was super cool and she was super nice and so smart. And she still sends a Christmas card to my mom every year. It's been 40 years. And at that time, that would have been 1981, 82. Mm-hmm. And cartoons were real big. And they, at least right where we were from, and we just got an antenna so we could see cartoons. And I got to our house, I'm 6 years old, so you don't know what you don't know. So, I just assume everybody has cartoons. So I get there and I walk through the house and I'm like, where's your TV? She's like, oh, hon, we read here. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, and I felt bad. And she goes, well, we play games too. We play card games. We play Skip Bo and I think Monopoly, no, we didn't play Monopoly. Something else, a board game. And I was like, oh, okay, But man, she just read to me all the time. So I love that. I can't even remember what she read, honestly. But it got me into that frame of thinking about reading and stuff. And I don't know if that was, I was the first one to read in my first grade class. It was like 8 months later. And I'm sure that was part of the reason. So, but you also could say it may have been Bucket and the pizzas, and the trans fats that really got me reading. So it's hard to say.
So did you?
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So when you went there, when you first heard that, did you just assume that they couldn't afford a TV, or did you realize that you'd went back in time?
Yes. I did first. I did think they couldn't afford it because I saw their clothes and stuff too. I'm like, Mom didn't prepare me or anything.
Didn't
just walk in. I'm
qualify the situation a little bit for you.
I was just like, everybody's wearing gowns. It's the same one.
That's funny. Your mom did that. I really would have thought she would have pre-qualified.
She may have. I was 6'2".
You just
know
what
I mean?
Hey, listen, bud. These people, it's like the 1800s for them. So just don't talk a lot. Just kind of go with the flow and see what happens. And you're like, yeah, I got it.
But everything changed whenever the day they were like, oh yeah, we're all meeting outside. What do you mean? Yeah, we're all butchering the chickens today. I'm like, we?
You're like, I'm not really in your clan. I feel like I should just go. Maybe
I feel like I'm not going to get any of this food. So
I feel like I'm more in a learning mode and I should watch from a distance. So
I don't think and the whole chopping off the head and they still run around. That's definitely true. So
yeah, my dad tells me how he grew up and my grandpa had like a whole chicken house and they used to back like a semi or a big truck down and they had to go in there at night with like red lights on and grab them all by the feet and spin them upside down or carry them upside down because the chickens would just kind of sit there because they couldn't do anything. And that sounds pretty horrific to me. So
what we do for our chickens.
Yeah. And now the chickens are even bigger. So if you still had to carry them by hand, think of how much work that would be.
I mean, have you ever seen what they've done to insects? They're murderers. So I don't know why everybody thinks chickens are so great.
It's true.
We need to get them big breasts so they can't walk. They don't need to be walking around. Murderers.
Chemtrails?
What? That took a left. What?
Well, I meant the insects. They're just going around spraying chemicals in the air, killing all the freaking bugs. It's not nice.
Yeah, it's true.
I do like to eat chickens, though, so mainly chicken embryos.
Yes. Love me some eggs. I haven't had any in a while.
What? What's wrong with you?
I like to make my burger and flip it in that first flip, then put the three eggs down. All right.
Yeah, burgers are processed meat, bud. What are you even doing with your life?
I like butter too, so
we're over 30 minutes. You ready to call it?
Yeah, I wish Dance Exponents could have been in here a little longer. We waited 5 minutes, bub. 7 minutes.
Hey, Richard, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna turn off.
We got 5 more minutes actually because we started late. Oh wait, no. Never mind.
No, I'm watching the timer. We're at 30 minutes. So Richard, stay close. I will send you a different link, and you can actually come in here and join us, and we'll be off there so we can chat for a minute.
Back room.
Ooh.
Hey, you need how do you get calcium?
How do we get chicken eggs?
Have you heard of mitochondria?
What's that do to my prefrontal cortex, bud?
It's a supplement.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm going to end the broadcast, and we'll just hang out for a minute. Y'all have a good night.
Stay tuned for part 3.
Yeah, part 3 next week. And I put the details in the description for the next book we're going to work on. So you could
and if anybody wanted to answer any of those questions in the comments below, please do. We will respond. And please, we're probably not seeing it correctly. We would like to be able to see it actually, Ray, someone that's studied.
Or if you want to respond to the questions, just email it directly or text Anthony's phone.
Yes. I will put a link in the description and his address.
All right. I'm out. See y'all.
Better.
Bye-bye.